everybody, this is Jeff Jeunesse. Welcome to our first lab exercise in symbology and cartography in ArcGIS Pro. And in this exercise we're going to see how to symbolize a polygon feature class using two different methods, by graduated colors and by unique values. You can symbolize other feature classes with these methods as well, points and polylines, but in this one we're just going to use polygons. Now this lab demonstration uses ArcGIS Pro 3.3.1. We're going to demonstrate these methods on a feature layer of historic fires in the Coconino National Forest. That's here in northern Arizona near Flagstaff. So let's start by loading that up. The data set is called Fire History Polygons. It's sitting in the Class GIS data folder in a subfolder called Additional Data. So we come over to Catalog. I have the catalog mapped to class data already. So we just open up Additional Data. Here it is, Fire History Polygons. We just right-click on it to add to Lab Exercise 1 map. And there we go. Here it is. Now notice it initially loads with a very basic and simple symbology. Every fire polygon looks exactly the same. Now, unless ArcGIS Pro has some specific information telling it how to symbolize a layer, then this is the normal way the data is going to initially be symbolized in a map. It's entirely appropriate and expected that you will want to change that symbology as soon as you load it up. Now the tool that you use to change symbology is called the Symbology pane, so we want to open that up. There's two ways to do it. You can either right-click on the layer in the contents page, you just come down to where it says Symbology. That's a quick and easy way. It opens up the Symbology pane. Other way is you select the layer in the contents, come to the feature layer up here in the ribbon, and then just click on Symbology. They both get you to the same spot. Now, once we got the Symbology pane open, we want to be in the Primary Symbology section. If you don't see Primary Symbology written at the top of the pane, then just click this leftmost icon up here, and that'll take you there. Sometimes it opens up in one of these other sections, and we want to be in Primary Symbology. Now, notice that right now, Primary Symbology is set to be Single Symbol. Now, we're going to change that. First, let's shift it to graduated colors. This means that the color of the fire polygon is going to change according to some attribute in the attribute table. Now, in this example, we're going to symbolize according to how much the fire costs to fight. This is recorded in the cost attribute field in the attribute table. So you can see that right here. These are all the attribute fields that could be symbolized by, and so we're choosing cost. Since we're mapping fires, let's set the color scheme to be a light red to dark red color. Yellow to red is good, but I just want to show you there's other things you can choose. So click the little down arrow here. We're just going to grab this one. And now we shade from light red to dark red. And notice that the map is changing automatically as we make these changes. Now we're going to generate 10 different classes. Right now we're starting out with 5 because that's just what it starts out with by default. We can change it to 10 different shades of red by just typing in a 10 here. And sure enough, we have more shades of red now, and we get a little bit more detailed picture of the cost of fires across the landscape. Now, we're using this natural breaks method. What is a method? A method means how do we pick the breakpoints for our 10 shades of red. We're going to set our method to be natural breaks because it's the default, and it's usually a nice one aesthetically. Natural breaks does a good job at symbolizing features differently when there's some large gap in the attribute values. So, for example, if we had a cluster of fires that cost relatively little to fight, and then another cluster that were really expensive, then the natural breaks method would symbolize each cluster with its own shade of red. So it's a good one aesthetically. Okay, now we have the fires symbolized the way they want. Let's quickly jump forward in the lab exercise document here just to get caught up. We are up to here. We've just symbolized this. All right, so now we have them symbolized according to cost, but one thing I don't like is that the cost values here in the legend are being reported as just normal double precision decimal numbers. These are costs, these are dollars, these are currency. So they could be symbolized in a way that's a lot easier for people to read if we just change them to a currency format. The way we do that is we click on the little Advanced Symbology Options button here in the Symbology pane. We're going to open up the Format Labels, and it's this category right here. Notice there's lots of things you could do here. You could put commas in there. You could change the number of decimal places, or you could just quickly change it to a currency format and see how it changed into something that's a lot easier to read. Now I'm writing this in the United States, and here we use dollars for currency. So ArcGIS is showing us currency using the dollar symbol. Now if you're curious about how ArcGIS makes this choice, it's in your options. So if you come to the project go into Options, scroll down to Language, you'll see that, and for me, I have ArcGIS set to use English for the United States, and it's using this choice right here to decide that I want to use $signs if I'm picking a currency format. Okay, so I have that symbolized by graduated colors, meaning it's going from light red to dark red based on how much it costs. So if I put a legend in a layout and exported this, then the legend would show nice currency values here as well. Okay, so now we've seen how to symbolize by graduated colors. So let's try another style. Now, these fires are also categorized by the method by which they were mapped. For example, people may have walked the perimeter with a GPS and mapped the boundary that way, or they may have just drawn the boundaries in by hand on the screen, or they could have even used GIS to identify boundary based on infrared imagery. Now, the method used to create the boundary is stored in an attribute field called data source. And if we want it, we can just open up the attribute table, come over to the data source here. This tells us the method that each fire was mapped. All right, so we're just going to symbolize by that instead. Now, if we want it, we could just re-symbolize this layer that we just created, but I kind of like it, so I'm going to make a copy of this, and then I'm going to make new symbology in the copy. If you've never done it before, all you have to do is hold the Control key down. I'm clicking Control, click the layer, and drag it up. That makes a copy. So Control and drag makes a copy. So we're going to start working on this copy here instead. Okay, so let's open up the Symbology pane. Let's go to Primary Symbology again. Okay, we're here. Now we're going to change graduated colors to unique values. We're going to set the attribute field to be that data source field we're just looking at right here. You see all the unique data source values in the feature class automatically populate themselves down here. So there's only 4 of them in this feature class, 4 different methods that were used. Now it's nice that ArcGIS filled this list out for us automatically, but you really can't count on it doing that all the time. ArcGIS will do it with small data sets like the one we're using here, but if you have a larger data set, you'll need to manually tell the tool to examine the attribute table and figure out what all the unique values are. And you do that with this Add All Values button right here on the tool. Now if I click it now, it repopulates the symbol classes with the 4 data source values that are recorded in the feature class. Now notice there's this extra category down at the bottom called All Other Values. And this means what symbol you want to use to symbolize features that aren't listed in the group above. Now for these fire history polygons, there are no features that are missing a data source value. Every one of them is labeled by one of these 4 categories here. So nothing is actually being symbolized with this dark gray symbol at the bottom. Now if you like, you can get rid of that All Other Values category by clicking the More list here and just unchecking Show All Other Values, and it goes away. We can bring it back. You can also get rid of it by right-clicking on the list down here and doing Remove. It's just another way to get to the same place. Now, as I mentioned, this particular data set is really not much point to having this because all the polygons have one of these 4 values in it. But this All Other Values category can actually be useful if you only want to symbolize a few of your available classes and you have some generic symbol for the rest of them. So for example, we're currently showing all 4 possible data source classes in our symbology. So maybe I only want to symbolize the polygons mapped with infrared imagery with their own special symbol. And that's this one with IR in the middle. And then I want all the other polygons just to have some generic symbol. It kind of sets them apart from the infrared derived boundaries. So all I have to do is just delete these other ones. So I can right click on GPS here and hit remove. I could right click on the hand drawn ones here, the HD, and hit remove. And I can right click on other here and hit remove. And notice that now we have only this polygon here that is derived with infrared imagery, and all the others are symbolized with some generic All Other Values symbol. Okay, that wraps it up for our first lab exercise. We saw how to symbolize a feature class using both unique values and by graduated colors. In the next lab exercise, we're going to look at how to actually change the symbol of an individual category. So, if we want to change one or all of these symbols individually. So we'll see how to do that next time. All right, thanks so much, everybody.